It's been almost a year now since everything in my life fell apart. It feels like a lifetime ago, but the memories are still fresh. I remember it all the way Sam, my ex-husband, dropped the bombshell that completely shattered my world. It was almost a week before our second wedding anniversary, and I thought we were going to celebrate it like we had planned. But instead, I got the truth. A truth I never saw coming. Sam and I had been together for 4 years. We got married after 2 years of being together, and in the beginning, everything was perfect. Or so I thought. We were happy, at least I thought we were. But as it turned out, I was the only one in that relationship who was still holding on to the illusion of happiness. Sam, my 32-year-old husband, had been acting strange for a while. At first, I thought he was just stressed out from work. He had been spending long hours at the office, and when he came home, he seemed distracted. I convinced myself that it was just work pressure, nothing to worry about. But deep down, something didn't feel right. I couldn't pinpoint it, but I felt like I was losing him. Still, I didn't want to confront him about it. After all, we were about to hit our second wedding anniversary, and I was hopeful. Then came the day that everything changed. Sam sat me down in our living room, looking more serious than I had ever seen him. I remember the way his eyes avoided mine. He told me he couldn't do this anymore, that he was leaving me for someone else. And not just anyone, his 23-year-old co-worker, Nikki, who had only started working with him a few months before. I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. I felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. I had no idea he had been seeing someone else. In fact, I never even suspected that he was cheating. We had been together for 4 years, and married for 2. He had promised me that he was all in. How could he betray me like this? It felt like a bad dream, and I kept waiting to wake up. But I didn't. The reality of it hit me harder than anything I had ever felt. Sam admitted to having been seeing Nikki for 8 months. 8 months. That was longer than we had been married. He told me they were in love, that they wanted to be together, and he couldn't keep pretending anymore. I was blindsided. All of the little things that had seemed strange over the past few months suddenly made sense. The long hours at work, the late nights, the constant distance between us, it wasn't because of stress, like I had thought. It was because he was hiding something from me. He was hiding her. And for months, I had been completely oblivious. I couldn't understand it. How could he do this to me? How could he betray me like that? I had trusted him completely. He had promised me that we would be happy together, that nothing would tear us apart, but now he was telling me he was leaving. The worst part, he made it seem like I was the problem, like I wasn't enough for him. That Nikki, the woman he had been cheating on me with, was the one he was supposed to be with. I asked him to leave. I didn't want him in my life anymore. He gathered his things and left. A part of me thought he would come back, that this was just some bad dream, but he didn't. He moved in with Nikki, and that was that. My whole world had crumbled, and I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. The divorce was ugly. I was angry, so incredibly angry. I didn't just want to move on, I wanted him to feel the pain I was feeling. I know that sounds petty, but who could blame me? I had trusted him with my whole heart, and he had destroyed it. He knew how badly I had been hurt in the past by someone else's betrayal, and yet he had done it to me too. We had been together for 4 years. 4 years of love, promises, and dreams. And just like that, it was all gone. He had shattered everything, and I had to pick up the pieces. But the thing is, I started to heal, slowly. The divorce was finalized a few months ago, and while I wouldn't say that the settlement helped me heal, it did bring me some peace. I got the house, I kept the car, and I walked away with a decent amount of money. It wasn't going to fix my heart, but it was mine. It was something that came from all of this mess, something that was mine to hold on to. I blocked Sam on everything. I didn't want to hear from him anymore. I didn't want to know about his life, about Nikki, about whatever new world they were building together. He had taken enough from me already. I didn't need to know anything more. For the next few months, I focused on myself. I spent time with my friends, started reconnecting with people I hadn't seen in years, and began to feel like myself again. Slowly but surely, I was moving on, but even though I was moving forward, There were days when I still felt the weight of everything that had happened, especially when I thought about what we should have been celebrating. It should have been our 3rd wedding anniversary, but instead of celebrating the love we had shared, I spent that day feeling low. I didn't know how to escape the thoughts that kept creeping in. That's when Sam sent me an email. I didn't want to read it. I didn't want to hear from him, especially not on that day. But curiosity got the better of me. I opened the email, and there they were pictures of him and Nikki, grinning like they had the perfect life. They had just gotten engaged, and he wanted me to know. Along with the photos, Sam wrote a message. I couldn't believe what I was reading. He apologized for cheating on me at first. But then he said something that made my stomach turn. He said he no longer felt bad about it, that it was fate that brought Nikki into his life. That I was just a placeholder, someone he had to settle for. He blamed me for everything, the broken trust, the friends who turned their backs on him. Even the way I reacted to his affair, I couldn't believe the nerve he had. After everything he had done to me, after everything I had gone through, he still found a way to make it seem like it was my fault. He even said that he was winning at life because of Nikki. He was rubbing his success in my face, as if he had somehow come out on top. I wanted to delete the email and forget about it. But something stopped me. In the background of one of the photos, I saw someone familiar. It was a distant relative of mine, Jonathan. He wasn't someone I was close to, but I had seen him at family gatherings. The fact that he was in the photo caught my attention, and I had to know what he was doing there. I sent the photo to my mum and asked if it was really him. She called her cousin, and they found out that Jonathan was attending the engagement party because Sam had been trying to get him to invest in his new business. Sam had used his father's connections to get Jonathan involved, and that's how they knew each other. I didn't expect anything to come from it. I wasn't trying to cause trouble, but I had a feeling that if I reached out to Jonathan, he should know what kind of person Sam really was, so I asked my mum for Jonathan's contact details and decided to give him a heads up. I didn't want him getting involved with someone like Sam. I called Jonathan and told him everything about the affair. The lies, everything. I even forwarded him the email Sam had sent me. Jonathan was shocked. He had no idea what Sam had been hiding. And he appreciated that I had warned him. I didn't think anything would come of it. But I felt a sense of peace. I had done what I could. I wasn't sitting back letting Sam get away with everything. I wasn't just going to let him live his life while I was left in the wreckage of our marriage. But little did I know, this was just the beginning of what was to come. After I reached out to Jonathan and told him the truth about Sam, I didn't expect much to change. I didn't think it was going to be a game changer for Sam, but life has a funny way of surprising you. A few days after I spoke to Jonathan, I received another email from Sam. I could tell it was from him before even opening it. The subject line alone was enough to make my stomach churn. He had a sense of desperation in his words, something I hadn't seen in him before. It was almost pathetic. He was practically begging me to help him. Apparently, after Jonathan had backed out of his investment, Sam's whole business venture was collapsing. He had already quit his job, hired people, and started recruiting for his business. But without Jonathan's financial backing, his company was on the verge of failure, and Sam, being the man he was, didn't want to face that reality. He was desperate for a way out. He was asking for my help. In exchange, he was offering me a partnership in his business if I could somehow convince Jonathan to reconsider. He even said he knew I could do it. The nerve of him, after everything he had done, after how he had destroyed our marriage and betrayed me in the worst way possible. He was asking me to fix things for him. I was furious at the audacity, but also strangely amused. I thought about all the ways I could respond, but in the end, I just kept my reply simple and to the point. I told him that I had no interest in helping him. Not now, not ever. I reminded him that he had made his own decisions, and now he had to deal with the consequences. I told him I wasn't going to be manipulated by him again. He had broken my trust, and there was no going back. I didn't expect him to stop there. He didn't give up that easily, did he? Of course, he didn't. He sent another email, still desperate, still pleading. But at that point, I had already made my decision. He wasn't getting any help from me. I wouldn't waste another second of my life trying to fix his mess. At this point, I started to feel this weird sense of relief. I had taken control back. I wasn't going to let him continue hurting me or manipulating me. I was moving forward and I was going to do it on my terms. The worst part was over, right? Well, it wasn't over quite yet. I got news a few days later that Sam and Nikki had broken up. It was all over the gossip circuit. Sam and Nikki were no longer engaged. They had called off their wedding. And this time, I wasn't the one left heartbroken. It turned out Nikki had found out about Sam's manipulations. She wasn't blind to the truth. And when she learned that Sam had been trying to reach out to me again, she wasn't having it. She decided she couldn't be with a man who was still tangled up in his past, still trying to hold on to his ex-wife. And when she realized that he had been lying to her about the reasons why Jonathan backed out of the investment, it all fell apart for them. This was justice. It was a twisted kind of karma, but it felt so right. I didn't have to do anything. Sam had done it all to himself. I didn't have to lift a finger to make his life worse. Life was already doing it for me. I felt a strange satisfaction knowing that he was going through the same heartbreak that he had put me through. He was losing everything, and now he was alone. But even that wasn't enough for Sam. No, he didn't just accept his fate. A few days later, something happened that I really didn't expect. Nikki showed up at my door. It was late in the evening when I saw her standing on my doorstep. I was about to eat dinner when I noticed her standing there. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to ignore her and just go back to my meal, but she wasn't going to let that happen. She started shouting, accusing me of being jealous, of ruining her life, and of trying to make Sam's life miserable. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was the one who had been part of the affair, part of everything that had gone wrong, and now she was accusing me. Of all the nerve! I stayed calm, though. I told her that I had nothing to say to her, that I wasn't interested in her or in Sam's drama anymore, but she didn't want to leave. Instead, she started throwing a tantrum on my doorstep, and that's when I snapped. I told her that I had found out about the affair because of the email Sam sent me, and that if she didn't believe me, I would gladly forward her the email. She didn't believe me at first, but after I offered to send it to her, she changed her mind. She stood there waiting for me to do it. So, I forwarded her the email. When she read it, I could see the shock on her face. The realization hit her. I had told her everything. She had no idea about Sam's manipulations. And now she knew the truth. She didn't say anything else. She turned around and left without another word. It was such a satisfying moment. But even then, I knew this wasn't over. The next day, I received another email from Nikki. She was furious. She called me horrible names and told me that I was still trying to ruin her life. She said I was petty and miserable, but I didn't care. I had already won. I told her that she and Sam needed to leave me alone, or I would expose everything on social media. I wasn't going to let them continue to harass me. I had already done the right thing, and now it was time to move on. Things started to quiet down after that, but I was still feeling a little guilty. I hadn't expected things to spiral out of control like this. I had wanted to warn Jonathan, not cause all of this chaos. But as time went on, I realized that everything had happened because Sam deserved it. He had done everything to ruin my life, and now he was facing the consequences of his actions. A few weeks later, I heard more news that confirmed it. Sam was at rock bottom. He had no business, no fiancé, and no friends. Everything he had built had crumbled, and it was all his fault. I didn't feel bad for him. Not anymore. I had won. I had my dignity, my peace, and my life back. And now, Sam had nothing left.